Okay, so well, first of all, welcome to the class. I'm recording, so if anybody didn't make it to the meeting tonight, then hopefully the recording works. So we're having a few growing pains with bright space. Okay, Miranda, that's okay. You're welcome. Okay, very good. All right, so if you downloaded those two items, it'll make it easier as we go through these. All right, so the first one is 13 pages long. So we're not going to hit every single item there, but if you want to take notes, you're certainly welcome to do so. So there's a lot of very specific instructions for the coursework. And so that's why I asked you folks to download those papers. If you have it on your device, that's fine if you're able to make notes. And if you have any questions, you can ask them tonight. And also at any time during the course, if you have questions, you can send me emails or texts. Those are the easiest ways to communicate with me. So if you try to communicate with me late in the evening, I might not be able to answer you the same day because there's a 3-hour difference between California time and Florida time. So by the same token, I promise I won't be calling you at 7 in the morning Florida time. Okay. All right, so on the very first page there, it talks about the instructors. So I'm your instructor for this course. I've got 2 email addresses on the paper. Either one of them works. They both go to the same email address. So it doesn't do any good to send me an email to each of them because then I just get double the number of emails. Then of course my cell phone number is there. That's a California number. I used to live in California for many years. And so now I'm here. Okay, so as we go through, if you take a look at page number 2, it talks about the required textbooks. So the first one is Gall and Gall, applying educational research, how to read, do, and use research to solve problems of practice. Now it's the 7th edition, so that's the one that you need to have. Okay, so I've got the ISBN number there. That's easily procured through the class. I believe that in your coursework that you're able to purchase that book at a discount. If it's not available for this course, then you can get it at Amazon. Should be able to get it there. Okay, the second book is the American Psychological Association. It's now the 2020 version. This one slipped through my editing, so I meant to change that. So the 2019 version is no longer applicable. So we're using the 7th edition now. So that has a copyright of 2020. So the 6th edition was acceptable up until December of 2020, but we're way past that now. There have been some changes in the way that APA is utilized now in the papers. So if you use the 6th version, then you're going to be making quite a few mistakes in your papers. One of the big changes is the fact that when you're citing books with multiple authors, it used to be that the very first time that you cited a work that had more than 2 authors that you had to list all of the authors in the first online citation. That has changed. Now, if you have more than 2 authors, you can use et al. From the very first time that you cite. Now, anytime that you have an article that only has 2 authors, then you still need to include both of those authors. And of course, single authors is the same, no change there. Okay, in the APA manual, it also talks about the use of running heads. And for the most part, that has been changed for many assignments that require APA, so that the running head is not required. However, for this course, because we are preparing a professional paper, then the running head is required. So please include that in all of your papers. Also remember that for the running head cannot have more than 50 characters in the running head. That includes punctuation and spaces. So generally speaking, your running head would be the title of your paper. But if the title of your paper is more than 50 characters, then it's going to be too long. So you're going to have to abbreviate it. Okay, so if you have any difficulties with that, let me know. I can give you some suggestions. Okay, so the APA manual has some other important features in there. In fact, one part is how to use jars. And that's basically referring to the use of journal articles in your papers. And we're going to be using many journal articles. Okay, you're going to start off with 8 that are required for this course. And then for the next course, you're going to add 4 more to it. So you're going to have a minimum of 12 by the end of 696. Okay, for 695, you're only required to have 8. If you want to put more than 8, that's fine. I'll read them. I don't have a problem with that. But if you go to chapter 3 in the APA manual, then it will give you instructions on how to report those journal articles. Now, when you're doing the journal articles, you want the journal articles as much as possible to be primary resources. So who can tell me what a primary resource is versus a secondary resource? Any ideas?
A secondary resource comes from a primary resource, like I don't know, for example, the person seeing a crime could be the primary and the person reporting it is the secondary.
Well,
Possibly.
That's pretty close. That's pretty close. Okay, any other ideas? That idea is very, very, very close. Okay, don't be bashful. Okay, primary is what you look at in, say, books, textbooks, firsthand reporting. If you witness a crime as you were mentioning and you report it, that's still primary because you personally reviewed it. Secondary is the report that you make when it's over and done with. Okay, so once it's published, it's not going to be primary resource anymore. So you have a researcher who spends a period of time, say a year or 2 years, researching a project. Okay, that author is doing primary research. Once he puts it in a document, then it still remains the same until somebody else reviews it and puts it in their own words. Then it becomes secondary. Okay, so the reports that you make in this class are going to be considered as secondary resources. So when you have an author who provides article reviews, those article reviews are now secondary information. It's no longer primary. So for this reason, when you're looking for your article reviews, you don't want to do research that is just nothing more than a synthesis of a bunch of studies that happened in the past. That is not primary research, that's secondary. When you're finished with this course and the next course, your paper will be a synthesis of at least 12 different articles. And you're going to be discussing how these articles play hand in hand in with your research hypothesis. Okay, so that would mean that somebody else coming behind and reading your work, they're going to get a lot of good information, but the information that they're going to read is no longer primary, it's secondary. So I hope that that is understandable. Okay. Any questions about that?
No.
Okay. So Miranda, your comment was,
Before you go on,
it was about 99%. Okay. So you can be proud of that. Okay, Tango, I didn't catch your comment.
whenever I print it out, I don't have your email information. Is there any way you can just tell me that? I don't see your phone number, email on what I printed out.
Okay, so did you print out just the second part?
I have part 1 and part 2, but on mine, I don't see your, I see a Gabriella Walker, a Kathleen, a Nilsa, a David, but I don't see your information. Maybe I printed out the wrong thing.
Yeah, okay, you know, that I'm glad that you pointed that out. I'll have to go back in because I thought I had updated that. So please.
The first box just says your instructor will share personal information via announcements. That's what I have. So if it's different, just if you can just give me your info whenever you're able to provide it.
Hi, everyone. Just some input on that. I did print it as well. And for mine, it did show your name is Professor Michael Gladfelter Senior. There you go. And I have all your information. So it might be been a glitch on Tango, maybe. I don't know. But
okay.
Maybe
So
I'll check it out again. Thank you.
Tango, when did you print? What day?
I printed it 2 days ago.
2 days ago. So that
It was Sunday. I think it was Sunday. I printed it. It may be a glitch. I'll go back and look at it again.
Okay. Yeah, send me an email if you're still seeing it wrong, because I took the old ones out because it had some information that's no longer valid in it, and I thought that I had replaced it. So yeah, let me know if you need that updated. I can get that for you.
Thank you.
Thank you for pointing it out. I appreciate that. Okay. Yeah, let me put that in here.
I put in the chat the information that I have on the syllabus I printed. I don't know, like Tingo or anybody else who needs.
Very good. Thank you for that. Thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
I didn't even see that because I was busy typing away. Thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. So we're on the page 2. So just make note of that change there for point number 2 under the required learning resources, please. So that should be the 2020 version, 7th edition. Okay. And I will more than likely update that and replace that document. All right, so on page 13, you have your course learning outcomes. So you have a list of those there. And your course expectations down at the bottom of the page. Excuse me. And the expectations, there's a list of 8 of them there on page 4. Okay, this particular course is 8 weeks long. So that's going to cover basically 2 months. SPD 696 will also cover 2 months. Okay, so this course leads directly into SPD 696. Now, something that's really important to understand is that SPD 696 is, it's important that you're finished with 695. Okay, because the very first assignment that you'll have in 696 is going to be based on the last assignment that you do in this course. So if you're not finished with this course on time, you're going to get to a late start on the next course. And in fact, the university will not allow you to enroll in 696 if you're not finished and have a grade by the end of this course. Okay, so if you feel that you're running behind and you need some extra help, please reach out to me. Let me know what challenges that you're having so that I can figure out what can be done to help you. Okay. All right, so then you have your course requirements, as I mentioned there. You have learning activities. You're going to be doing some, I guess you call them conversations with others in the course. Just about every week, you're going to have an assignment of one type or another. Some of them you're going to post some comments of some items that we're going to mention in the threaded discussions. Yeah, it says here on page 5, the top of the page, you're going to have 7 of them. Each one is worth 5 points. Now, each one of these are going to have a particular discussion. And so it's important to read what those topics are so that you'll know what you're supposed to be discussing. It's important for you to respond to at least 2 of your peers. Okay, if you don't respond to your peers, then you're going to lose at least 1 point out of each discussion. Okay, so it's important. And what I look for in those discussions with your peers is something more than just saying, hey, I liked your comments, way to go. Okay, because that's not really a discussion. So read what your peers are saying, and then you can comment on them. You know, state what you like about the comment. If you have some constructive criticism, then go ahead and give that constructive criticism, but please do it in a nice way. Okay, we all have challenges, especially teaching class and taking classes at the same time. So we need to be nice to each other. Right, and then you're going to have some self-chosen articles that are based on working with different types of research methods. So please be aware of those. And always attach the work that you write. Always use Word. Don't send me your papers in PDF. Okay, the only thing that you can put in PDF are the articles that you are researching. those are okay to send to me in PDF. But your papers, I need them in Word. Okay. And part of the reason for that is that sometimes there's formatting issues. We had many challenges when we were working in Blackboard. I'm not seeing quite as many of the challenges in the new platform, but I'm still seeing a little bit of it. And if I see what you're writing in Word, I can take a look at it in its raw form, and I can see where the problems are with formatting, and I can give you some help in that direction. Okay. So what you're learning in this course is not good only for this course and the next course. It's going to be for your future. So you'll learn how to write papers, use the proper etiquette, use the proper APA style. And the reason why we use APA for this course and the next course, and most of the courses here at National, is because we work with psychology. Okay, all of our teaching methods are involving psychology. And so the APA is, well, it deals with writing psychological papers, and that's why we use it. Some other courses might use MLA or Chicago style, styles that are different than APA, and they'll have different requirements. But please, for this course and the next course, use only APA style. Okay, so I may give you correction on your papers. If I leave you comments about improving in certain areas, the comments themselves do not mean that I've taken points off of your paper. Okay, so please understand that. If you see some comments on the paper, just use that as constructive criticism. If you're missing any points, look at the rubric and see where the points were taken away in the rubric. Okay. So sometimes students are concerned because I'll leave them comments such as maybe the running head is too long. Maybe you used improper format for long quotes, things like that. I don't necessarily take points off for those, but if you don't fix those things and change them in your writing, then I will start taking points off. So just consider the first comments as, I guess you could call them just warnings, just friendly warnings to help you to guide with your writing. I want you to be good writers as well as good researchers. And I'm not going to beat you up over it. Okay. All right. So a couple of things that are going to be requirements. You have a midterm exam that's worth 10 points. That's an open book test, but it is timed. So don't wait to take the test and you haven't read the material, because you won't be able to find all the answers in the allotted time. So as you go through and look at your assignments on a weekly basis, make comments in your material there and prep for that. Your final exam is worth 20 points. That's also open book. Okay, you are given 2 attempts for each test. So if you bomb out on the first test, then you can take it again. Okay, so we're trying to make it as easy and as painless as possible. All right, point number 10 there on page 6. There's mandatory city training that's worth 25 points. And there's instructions how to get into the city program for National University. So it's very detailed there. If you follow the directions, then city will not charge you for that course. But if you don't follow directions, then they will send you a bill for that. So please follow the directions carefully.
Where can we find the directions? I was looking at the course and I was gonna try to start it, but I couldn't find the directions.
Okay, it starts on page 6.
Okay.
That's on the first section.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay, and so all of page 7 is the directions, and it finishes up on page 8. Okay, so thank you, Sarah, for that question. Okay, and yeah, it'll take a couple of hours to do this. It's not that hard. The certification lasts for, I believe, 3 years. And then if you're going to continue doing research, then you just renew it every 3 years. You'll get a memo to renew it. It's your choice whether you renew it or not. But if you're going to do continued research, then really it is a requirement. Okay, there are things in that course that help you so that if you're going to do actual research, that you do it the correct way. Now, one of the things that is emphasized in the course is that when you're working with human subjects, you have to treat them in a special way. One of the things that comes up is in identifying the students. Okay, so when you identify students, you need to use pseudonyms. You have to change their names. Okay, so and you need to put in the paper that you have changed the names of the individuals. Now, just as a hint, if you choose not to change the names, it's not going to bother me in the slightest, but I am going to look for you stating that these are pseudonyms. Okay, as long as you state that in the paper, I'm okay with it. If you don't mention that, then I'm going to bring it to your attention. It is a legal requirement. Okay. When you're discussing where you're going to be working with your students, it's important also to make sure that you do not give information that makes it easy to identify your target students. Okay, we need to keep in mind in this crazy world that we live in, that there are families where there are estranged dads, estranged moms, okay? Legally, they're not allowed to have contact with their children. So if we do a research project and we identify too closely where those students are, then somebody who's looking for those students, trying to figure out where they are, see, then we're giving them an open invitation to go there and kidnap the kids. So that's why we have to be so careful. So rather than saying that you're going to use a target school in San Jose, California, for example, you would want to say, I'm going to choose students from a school in the southwest part of the United States. So this way you're not identifying closely what these students are. Okay, does that make sense what I'm saying? Yeah, it's really important. We have to protect these children. There's just too much craziness going around out in the world. And it's actually a requirement of the IRB that we do not closely identify where we are getting our students. We're getting our target students. Okay, you'll find that in most of the articles that you read, that they use very generalized areas where they say that they're getting their target students. So they don't specify a particular school district. They don't specify a specific school. And if they do, they're in violation. That article should not be published, period. It's in violation of standards. All right, so let's see here. All right, and then the rest, we've got the written assignment expectations. Now let's jump past a couple of pages. Let me go back. Now let's go to page 9. All right, so the city training is due week number 2. That's 25 points. Now, when you do your city training, be sure to save the certificate and your transcript, okay, because that is going to be part of your first assignment in SPD 696. Okay, so if you save that, then you're going to be ahead of the game and you're not going to have to go back through your files and dig for it. Okay, so you can make a file and name it SPD 696, and you can put certain things in that file so that they're there handy for you for your next course. Okay, for week number 3, you're going to have a library orientation. So you're going to watch a video, and I believe that you're going to be taking a short 1-hour class with the library. The librarian is going to give you clues as to how to do your research. Okay, we recommend that you use only the National University Library because it's more direct. You don't have to worry about accidentally coming across plagiarized articles. When you try to Google articles, you really don't know what you're getting. You don't know if it's an authentic document or if it's been in a paper mill. And by paper mill, I mean, there are companies out there that will provide papers on just about any subject that you want. And the minute that you use it, you've plagiarized, okay? Because it's not your work. So there are many out there, they'll have nice sounding titles, but they might not be suitable. So please stay away from searching on Google. Okay, use the National University Library, and that orientation will help you with that so that you're able to look for the right articles. And they'll discuss things with you. For example, if you put in a topic and you don't get enough hits, then you can change the wording a little bit. Sometimes just taking one word out of that title or the idea that you're trying to look for will increase the number of hits. So the fewer words that you use in your searches, the larger number of hits that you're going to have. So don't make it too short because then it'll be overwhelming. It'll be hard for you to find what you're looking for. Okay. All right. Then you have your threaded discussions. You have your Dropbox assignments. So you'll have 5 of them. You'll have your signature assignment that's worth 50 points. Then, of course, you have your midterm and your final exams. So the maximum is 200 points. So then right below that, then you see the breakdown of how your grades are broken out. Okay. All right. So in order to get a passing grade, you have to have a minimum of 160 points. Okay. So that's the minimum standard. So we hope that you'll have a much higher score than that. Okay, so then you have your breakdown of grades underneath. You have outstanding achievement, commendable, marginal. Well, marginal is it's not acceptable. It's actually a failing grade. Okay, so try to stay in the 80 to 100% area. Okay, and that shouldn't be too hard. All right, and then on page 10, then you have the alignment of the course, the programs, institutional learning. These will line up very nicely with the California standards. And California is very heavy on the standards. So we're trying to help you to meet those standards. Okay, so then of course, there's the professional dispositions and civility, professionalism, etc. Attendance for the online courses. Okay, the expectation is that you'll log into the class at least twice a week, but many find it important to log into the course, almost every day. I'm not going to watch it that closely, but it is recorded in the course each time that you log in. Okay, if you're having technology problems, let me know right away. Okay, most of the problems, just to let you know, most of the problems can be solved by just simply closing everything down, rebooting your computer, and starting back up again. What I mean by rebooting your computer is that you turn it off completely and then restart it. Okay, that pretty much clears any little glitches that you might have in your operating system so that you start brand new. And most of the time it does get rid of the problem. Okay. Another thing that happens at times is that your cache might get too full. So in Chrome, you have some dots over in the right-hand corner, right under the X. When you click on that, you can go to security settings and you can clear your cache. I think it's in the same spot for Microsoft. So those are easy ways to clear your cache. If you need to reset your screen, you can always use Control F5, and that will refresh your screen. Okay, so like I say, that clears up most problems that you might have. Chrome is the better option for viewing things for National University. Microsoft has some issues that don't work well with certain parts of what we use in National University. Okay. Any questions so far? I don't know if I'm going too fast or too slow. If you have any questions, you can stop me at any time and ask the questions. Right, academic integrity. So students are required to cite the use of materials written by others in all written communications for courses. Okay, plagiarism is the presentation of someone else's ideas or work as one's own. This includes using ideas, words, or phrases without proper attribution. Students found plagiarizing are subject to the penalties outlined in the policies and procedures in the section there in the university catalog, which may include a failing grade for the work in question or for the entire course. Inadequately or improperly cited work receives no credit. In cases of plagiarism, the burden of proof rests on the student, not on the instructor. In other words, the student will be required to prove that plagiarism has not occurred. So for more information on proper citation and writing research, then see the websites listed below. And there's two websites there. Also, your publication manual will be very important because there's a section in there that will explain that. Now, from time to time, I may make comments to you that I noticed that maybe you have some citations in your references and I could not find those citations in your paper. So I may bring it to your attention. If I do that, then please correct those. Okay, the rule of thumb is that anything that's in the references needs to have in-text citations. Okay, no exceptions. Anything that has an in-text citation must have a reference. No exceptions. Okay. And to give you a little bit of a clue how to check that yourself, when you're finished with your references, then go back and click on a reference that you have, click on the last name and use Control F. Control F. That will show you every place where that author is mentioned in your paper. Okay, and that's what I use to check your papers. Okay, so that is, I guess you call it a secret formula. It's not really secret, but it's a good way of checking your work so that you don't miss out. And then, of course, you can also go through the paper, and everywhere that you have an inline citation, you can click on that author in that inline citation and use that Control F, and it will tell you whether that's in your reference section or not. Okay, so that's a big help. Okay, any questions about the first section there? They may have gone pretty fast, but most
Yeah,
of
just a question about the first textbook that we're supposed to get. I went to the Pearson link. Is that still up or does that not work? Because I couldn't find that link for the first textbook, the applying educational research one.
Okay, I may have to go in and refresh that. If you can't find it there, you can always go to Google, or not Google, Amazon, and you can put in that ISBN number and it will bring up that publication.
Okay.
The Pearson link didn't work for me either. It said it was unavailable, but if you are on Brightspace and you're on the left column, you can actually see the Dart book available, and it actually does pop up now.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, sometimes at the very beginning of the course, it doesn't work, but I'm glad that you found that it worked. Okay, so Jeremiah, did that answer your question?
Yeah, so that's in lieu of the textbook, right? You don't need the textbook if you can access that link, or is that in addition to?
No, you need the textbook.
Okay,
Okay.
got it. Thank you.
So yeah, actually you need both of them, both of those books, because you're going to use the APA manual heavily in SPD696. So it's an important book. And that book will be good for the next 10 years. Okay, then when it renews again, then you can buy a new one. But that will always keep you up to date with APA. So if you're doing research in the future, or you're just simply writing papers, dissertations for your school, then you'll be up to date on that. And your writing will be very, very professional. And that's what your administrators are looking for. They want to see that you're very, very professional. That pushes you up the ladder. So that's good.
So Professor, you're saying that you want us to have the paperback of both books?
Yeah, you can get either the paperback or the hard book. For the textbook, I would suggest just getting the paperback. I got a different version and I had to use 3 binders to put the book into it. So yeah, if you get the, what do you call it, the paperback, that'll be good.
Okay, because the reason I asked is because I was going to take the class a couple months ago and had to withdraw from it. And I purchased the online version of it. So I still have access to it for another 4 months, but I don't have the paper.
No, that's fine. If you have access to it, go ahead and use it.
Okay.
All right. I don't want you to go out and spend money if you don't need to. Okay. This one here, the publication manual, I got tired of my book being used so much that the pages would start falling out. So I got the spiral bound. Of course, I use this every week, so that's the reason for it. Okay, so any more questions on that first section? Okay,
As far as that first book again, I'm looking on Amazon right now and I can find the 6th edition, but not the 7th. I need the 7th, right?
yeah, you need the 7th. It's the up-to-date one.
Okay.
Okay, so try using that Dart link. Okay, so it should be there in your course.
But that was the one that is in Brightspace.
Yeah,
Dart link. Okay.
yeah,
Thanks.
yeah, should be in there. Okay. All right, so let's move on to part 2. And this is where the meat of the course is. Okay, so on the first page there, it says submission dates for unit assignments will remain constant for all units. The Dropbox assignments must be in the Dropbox by Sunday at midnight. That's California time. Okay, so that gives you a little bit more time than if I put you on Florida time. Okay, so your assignments, each one will be due on a Sunday. Okay, now the very last day of the course ends on a Saturday, but I generally will allow you to post the last assignment on that Sunday. So that'll give you one extra day. Okay. All right, and then helpful hints. Okay, you need the textbook for the new edition. And the 7th edition for APA, you should be using that. Now, if you find the 7th edition, it's a year old now. So it's possible that you can go to eBay or someplace like that and buy a used copy for less than what a brand new copy would be. And that's okay too, as long as it's a 7th edition. Okay. And I guess the same for the textbook, if there's if eBay has it. Okay. All right. Now the reading is heavy in the course, so please make time for that. It makes a comment here. It says, do not shortchange yourself. Do all the readings to prepare for your exams. Make sure that you really understand each of the kinds of research methods that we are studying. So you're going to go through quite a few different research methods. It's important that you understand each one of them. You may not like certain research methods, and that's okay. You do have to cover them in this course, though. And what you do after that is up to you. All right, so as I mentioned before, the 2 exams are open book and they're timed. If you need accommodations, then please let me know. All right, the threaded course discussions should have a first posting by Thursday at the latest, and the responses by Sunday at midnight. Okay, it said Saturday or Sunday, but I'm telling you now it's okay for the last posting to be on Sunday. Now, if you try to post your first posting on Sunday, nobody's going to have a chance to respond to you. Okay, and for that reason, you won't get any points for that posting. And that's the first posting, not the second posting or the third posting. Okay, so please have that by Thursday at the latest. Technically, I like to see it on Wednesday, but Thursday is okay. Okay, your city training, you should allow 6 to 8 hours of reading and quizzes. You're going to have a lot of quizzes. So, and then if you fail a quiz, you can take it over again. Okay. Okay,
Sorry, going back to your discussions for, okay, the first post is due latest by Thursday.
Yeah.
And then the response to others, how many responses are you requiring?
minimum of 2.
Okay.
You
Thank
can have more if you want, but a minimum of 2. Okay. All right, so you must begin collecting research articles on your area of choice. You need to start right away. Okay, don't put that off. Okay, because if you do, you're going to run out of time and you won't be able to finish on time. Okay, the IRB, if your research involves human subjects and you're going to actually perform that research with human subjects, then you need to let me know, because we need to get together with National University and we have to apply for that through the IRB together. It is not a requirement for you to actually conduct the research. What we're asking you to do in this course and the next is to develop a plan where you can do that research if you so choose. So in your final paper, you're not going to say that, well, the results were such and such, okay, because you don't have time to do that. A good research project is going to take at least a year. At the very minimum, it's going to take a year. Many of them take 2 or 3, 4, 5 years to conduct. Okay, so if you're going to have meaningful research, you need to be able to spend the time for it. So we're not asking you to do that in this course. We're just preparing you so that you'll be able to get a good start on that. You'll know the basic fundamentals of doing that research. Okay, so we have a lot to accomplish in the next 2 months, but as the comment brings out, if it's done well, you'll find later that your capstone project, in other words, SPD 696, it'll be much easier to produce, and you'll find that you become a scholarly practitioner. Okay, and I personally find, I teach both courses. I teach 695 and 696. And I find that the ones who did well in 695, 696 is a breeze for them. They just have to do a little bit more research and they have to polish up what they're doing, but it's a breeze for them. All right, so for page 2, it talks about what's required in week number 1. And so you'll have a couple of assignments there to do. So it's quite focused there on how to do it. It continues on page 3. Okay, gives you a lot of good information. It explains how you're going to develop your research question for SPD 695. So in this matter, you need to think about a teaching strategy that will help you with your own teaching. So in other words, you're going to use independent variables, which are the interventions that will help you to teach something new to your students. So that's what you need to focus on. Keep that in mind, because that's the whole purpose of what we're doing. When we get finished with this in 696, it's going to look like you have a very, very detailed lesson plan that you'd be leaving for a substitute teacher to do your class. Okay, we know that when we leave notes for our substitutes, the more detailed we are, the better success that substitute's going to have with our class. I mean, that's a given. And I've, back in my early days, I used to sub in classes, nothing to go by, had no clue as to what the teacher was teaching. So I would have to pull out my bag of tricks and just teach whatever I thought that the kids needed. And that's not effective teaching. Okay, so we need to leave really detailed information for our substitute teachers. And so 696 is going to help us to do that. Because let's face it, when you tell somebody how to do your research, the way that you did it so that they can do it and get the same results that you did, you need to give them the details. You need to explain how you're doing things. You need to explain each step of the way. And that's exactly what you do when you're replicating a lesson plan. And
Professor?
yes, go ahead.
Excuse me, I hate to interrupt you. Maybe someone can help me with this one. Do you have how long you would like the discussions to be? I was looking at the rubric and I was wondering, is there a certain amount of words you would like each discussion to be? How long should they be? And the responses to our peers.
Okay, your first submissions should be long enough to complete the assignment. Okay, for most people, it's going to be close to a page. Some will do more than a page. Okay, if it's only 3 or 4 sentences, that probably isn't going to work because you're not going to be able to explain what the objective is for that discussion thread. So you
Okay,
need to
thank
have
you.
some details to it.
All
Okay,
right.
your responses should be adequate. If you just say, good job, I liked your post, and that's basically it, that's not adequate because you're giving feedback to the other student. Our feedback should be constructive, so we can talk about what we like about the discussion point that they brought up. If you have something that you want to add to it, like something that you do in your class that helps you with that same particular issue, you're welcome to discuss that. Okay. So
Thank you.
I'm not going to tell you that you have to, write 3 or 4 pages. That's not the point. But it should be more than just a couple of sentences. So please think about what you're going to say. Don't make it just a super quick comment, because that's not going to do you any good. It's not going to do your peers any good. Okay. So does that help you with that?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And thank you for bringing up that question.
I had a question about the discussion board while we're still kind of talking about it.
Sure.
So the discussion board, we're answering the question of our research area of interest. Is there like a list or ideas, or like how are there like examples of what we could use as an area of interest?
Okay, well, let's answer that. Maybe doing some brainstorming. Okay, what would you like to see change in your teaching in your classroom? Okay, so it might require some self-analysis. Okay, so we all have areas that we want to improve in. Okay, so if you're having a particular issue in your classroom, okay, what would you like to be able to teach to your students? What would be important for your students to know so that they can be successful in your class? Okay, that's about the best way that I can think of explaining that, because everybody's going to be different in what they want to talk about.
I guess I just didn't know like the scope of it, like how specific I'm being. Like I have a group of kids are really behind in writing. Like, am I going to focus on writing in particular? Or like, for instance, I teach in a virtual environment. I'm with a charter school. And so I have a lot of problems implementing UDL and like hands-on type things, because I teach like this to a bunch of like boxes of pictures.
Yeah.
So I didn't know just like what you guys were looking for that.
Yeah, so if you take a look there on page 3, it says how to write your method, RQ. RQ means research question. Okay, so in those 3 items, it will give you some ideas. like I say, this is going to be something personal for you to decide. So you're trying to teach writing. Okay, so what are some things that you think that you might be able to implement into your teaching so that you can reach your students? And of course, you have to look at their ages, right? And see what they're capable of doing and see what their individual challenges are. And then go from there. Because not all students are going to respond the same. Okay, are you going to have to reach out to the parents and get help from the parents to do certain things? So I don't know if that's helping you.
Okay, so then the discussion board question is just me sharing like what area I'm going into, and then the assignment is actually expanding on it.
Yes.
That's the area I pick, and then I develop that method research question.
Yes.
Okay.
See, we in doing this, we tend to box ourselves in. Okay, we draw a square and we put ourselves in that square, and it's hard to fight our way out of that square. So in figuring out what you want to teach, what new skill that you want to teach, okay, then we're going to have to start thinking outside that box. And that's what's going to happen as you take a look at research articles. So they're going to focus pretty much on what you want to teach. See, and that's going to help you to look at other ways of accomplishing what you're trying to accomplish in your classroom. So does that make sense, what I'm saying?
It makes sense, yeah. It's just so like kind of
I know we kind of want to be
big
in
picture that I'm like, I want like a
Yeah,
specific, like I
right.
can pick this, or this, and this is what I'm writing.
Yeah. So
Okay.
we're putting ourselves in that tiny box, right? It
I
feels
like boxes.
comfortable. Right? It's very
Yes.
comfortable to be there.
It is.
Okay, but we have to break out of it. Okay, and we don't have to smash it all at once. But as we're doing our research, we're going to kind of eat away at the edges of it because we're going to be introduced to more ideas. And then that's going to help to develop your research question. And by the end of this course, your research question could very well completely change. And that's okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Because let's face it, when you do personal research, have you ever found that you're doing the research and something grabs your attention? So now your focus moves over to that new item and you start looking into it more and more, researching that more and more. And so now your focus has changed. And there's nothing wrong with that, because right now, what we're doing is we're trying to find what's going to help us to be better teachers in our classroom.
Okay.
All right. So don't let that bother you. Okay. You start off with an idea. It looks great right now. And maybe a week from now, you think, nah, I think I want to do something a little bit different. Okay. Now just keep in mind that your research articles should apply to your research question. So if you make radical changes in your research question, then you're going to have to replace some of your articles. Okay, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, it's going to help you to kind of get out of that box, or at least stretch those limits out far enough to where you start seeing other things that are going to help you. And that's the whole purpose of what we're doing. We're just trying to get out of that little tiny box. And I know it's so comfortable, feels nice and cozy and warm, but yeah, we need to kind of stretch that out a bit. Okay.
Our research question, again, just to clarify, needs to be some kind of teaching strategy that we want to improve on, or just some, yeah, I guess that's the best way to put it, like a strategy of a teaching practice that we want to improve on.
Yeah, you're right there. You're spot on. What some think of is, okay, what is a new skill that you want to teach your students? Okay, well, what does that mean? It means you're improving your teaching methods.
Mhm.
So the two go hand in hand. So for example, there, if you take a look on page 3, it talks about point number 1, point number 2. So point number 2, when you build your 695 research question, you have to think about which teaching strategies will help you improve your teaching for the classroom that you identified under number 1. Okay, and then it mentions IEPs. When you write IEPs, what are you doing? What's the process of that?
Evaluating goals that the students need to meet.
That's right. And each student is going to be different, right?
Yep.
So your IEPs are not going to be the same for each student. So you have to sit down and analyze, okay, how am I going to help this student reach that IEP? Because we can't expect the student to get there by himself. We have to help him get there. See, so in that sense, then you're thinking about how to improve your teaching. So you're going to be teaching a new skill. So then number 3 says, therefore, you want to know more about which teaching strategies are effective in teaching a measurable, and it's underlined, measurable behavior or skill for students with these disabilities. And where it's highlighted says these disabilities, you're going to put in what the disabilities that you're talking about, okay? The challenges in grades such and such, or for ages such and such. So you fill in those blanks, and that will pretty much set your research question, okay, for 695. Okay, so which teaching strategies are effective in teaching blank for students with blank disabilities in blank grades or blank ages. So this means that it's going to be custom to you. It's going to apply to you. That's why in your comments, you're not going to see everybody commenting exactly the same. Okay, because you're going to be sharing ideas. And with you sharing your ideas, you're going to help your peers to formulate new ideas in their head. See, so it's a good exercise. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, so you have 3 variables to identify and to plug in. Okay, you have dependent variables, you have 2 control variables, and you have your independent variable. Now, please remember this. This is very, very important. The independent variable is your intervention. Okay, got to remember that, because you're going to come across that constantly. When you're looking at your articles, when you look at them and see what your variables are, always look to see what the intervention is. Okay, because that is going to be your independent variable. Okay, so you're going to find that in some cases it's going to be a program. Okay, if it's a program, then you have to be careful about that program, because it's extremely easy to become biased. I remember back years ago, there was a program that came out, and it was supposed to be the end all of all things for teaching reading. And it had a fancy name to the program. I did some research on it, and there was hardly any research done by the company that was selling the product. What they did was put anecdotal comments from teachers in there. And that was the basis of their research, was just comments from teachers. So, and these teachers had, they were paid stipends for using the program. Well, in my opinion, that's extremely biased. That kind of research has no value because it's all one-sided. So there wasn't any research as to whether the program actually worked or not. And when we tried it in our school, it didn't work. In fact, it didn't work in the district at all. So you'll find that there's going to be some things like that. So if you find that research is based on a particular program, kind of do some side investigation on it to see if it's worthwhile. Find out what actual research the company did on that program, and just make sure that it's not just something that has a fancy name. It's they're going to charge the district a lot of money for it, and it's not going to do any good. Okay, so the rest of that on that page there, going to give you some more ideas. And then a thought for the future there on page 4. It says, first, you will develop a method research question, the one above, which will help you to decide which teaching method you'll want to use for your capstone project that you start writing now. Second, later in this class, you'll develop your capstone project research question, or the proposal research question, which is an action research proposal on which you will not take data to graduate this Master's of Education program, but you will write in such detail that you'll be able to use it as a plan to implement as soon as you finish writing it for your next teaching unit. Okay, so these two courses, final courses, are going to be very helpful to you. And many students decide to go on and get their PhDs. When you do that, you're going to be required to do some very serious writing and possibly do a research project. So this kind of sets you up so that you'll be able to step right into that and be able to do the research. Okay, then it goes on to week number 2 and gives you information about your discussions, your readings. You have required readings and you have optional readings. Okay, so please keep up with the required readings. The optional give you additional information, but the required, you need that to be able to pass the exam. Okay, then you have different types of research methods. So you'll see that there on page 6. And it's very interesting because you're going to be introduced to some methods of research that you might not have thought about before. Okay, and then you have your week number 3, you have your required readings. You'll have optional there again to help you. You'll have learning activities. For example, for week number 3, you're going to read the Dead Man Test, history blurb, and then you have Critchfield, the actual Dead Man Test. So it's an interesting experiment that can be used in the future. It may be a little bit humorous, but that's okay. We don't mind humorous. Okay, so you're going to have your library session. It's important not to miss that, but if it conflicts with your schedule, then it gives you information on how to do an alternate session so that you can get credit for it. Okay, so you have that information there for that assignment, and that starts on page 7, ends on page 8. Okay, then you have your week 3 assignment. That's an article analysis template. Okay, and so this helps you to develop your analysis for different articles. So it's going to give you that format. And I will give you some samples of that so that you know how to develop that. Okay, and that's very important because you're going to be using that not only in this course, but also in SPD 696. Okay. All right, then week number 4, you have required readings again. And the lectures are developed so that there's some PowerPoints and some videos there for you to review. Then you have assignment for week number 4 is worth 10 points again. And you're going to use an article template for a published article from the required readings. And very specifically, it's the one where Horner et al. Is the author. Okay, so the assignment is very specific. Okay. So if you look up there at the top of week 4, you'll see that item number 2 says Horner et al. 2009, a randomized waitlist controlled effectiveness trial assessing school-wide positive behavior support in elementary schools. Okay, so your assignment for week 4 is to complete that article analysis template for that article. Okay, and that's one of the articles that that you can also use later on. And then you're going to have your midterm exam. And because of all the activities for that week, there's no discussion for week number 4. All right, then for week number 5, then you have your required readings. And you'll notice that point number 2 is in bold. And the reason for it is, if you look down toward the bottom of the page, it says assignment week number 5 for 10 points. You're going to complete a research analysis template for the published article reading from Chow and Chow 2017. And that's why it's highlighted up at the top of the page, because that's the article that you're going to review and create that research analysis template. Okay, you will have a discussion for week number 5. And notice that each time you have a discussion, there's specific instructions for that discussion so that you're not left in the dark as to what you're going to be doing. And because for that week, you're going to be working with correlation and regression method and also experimental method, you can choose one of those to make your sample, your template for. Okay. All right. And the note says it must have a correlation regression or an experimental research method. Okay. So keep in mind that this is a method, not just experimental design. So there's going to have to be an explanation of how this is being done. Okay. So your week number 3 notes on research methods will help you with that. Okay. If you need help with that, then just let me know. All right, then week number 6, you have methods, you have case study and action research. So you have your required reading. And then number 2 is highlighted bold again. And I bet that by now you can figure out why it's bolded. Because if you look down below, it says to, well, let's see. Maybe I'm wrong on this one. No assignment due this week. Okay. That's because we're going to try to have a live collaborative session. Now, I'll let you know in advance when we're going to have our sessions, because I don't believe in taking up an exorbitant amount of your time with these meetings. Okay. If I get enough feedback where it looks like we need to have another meeting, then I'll call another meeting. Or if we're getting to a point that's really heavy duty, and we need to have more discussion, then I'll do it. But I'm trying not to overload you guys. And I'm trying not to micromanage you. Okay. But if you have questions, I do expect you to ask those questions. Okay. All right. So the response to intervention by a child with severe reading disability. Please read that. Be prepared to discuss that. Okay. Okay, then we've got week number 7. In that session, you're going to be pretty much finalizing your capstone research question, and you're going to be pretty much finishing up the Gall et al. Book. I believe that's pretty much the end of the book there. You'll have some learning activities. And if need be, we can have a live collaborate session. But if we don't need it, then we won't have it. Okay, and then if you take a look at about in the middle of that page there, then you're getting down to the nitty gritty there. So you can finalize your research question. And so it'll be pretty much how effective is blank method of teaching, which is your independent variable. That's your intervention in teaching a certain number of students with a certain type of disabilities in elementary or high school, for example, 5th grade, or ages 10 to 14 years of age, or whatever grade or age level that you're working with. So the possible formats, there's some there to kind of help guide your thinking. And then, of course, you have discussion for week number 7. Okay, and then there's a blank page there. Right, and then week number 8, that's your literature review. Okay, so you're going to take the final exam. That's worth 20 points. You have a discussion for that week. It says to reflect on 5 to 7 items that you learned in the course. Okay, so 5 to 7 means a minimum of 5. And you can stop at 7, or you can talk about more. That's up to you. Okay, but 5 is the minimum. Okay, these are things that you'll use in your future professional career, either as a student or as a teacher. Explain why they are important to you in 1-page double-spaced APA, and respond to 2 other students. Okay, your signature assignment, you're going to be using a minimum of 8 published articles. 7 of them are going to be primary research articles. You can use 1 literature review article, only 1. Okay, so that kind of gives you some flavor as to the difference between a literature review, which is what you're going to be producing, and actual primary source articles. Okay. All right, so it gives you a description down there. I'm not going to read it to you, but if you have any questions about it, then you can ask. Now it says that there are 2 parts to the assignment. Okay, you see that at the very bottom there, page 14. Okay, part 1 is your templates, your 8 templates that are based on your chosen relevant sources. These article reviews will be your appendices. So please mark those appendices, article 1, article 2, article 3, etc. Please start each appendice on a new page. To do that, I would suggest that you use Control plus Enter. That gives you an automatic page break. That way, if you go back to any one of your templates and you feel that you need to add information, you can do it, and it won't change the way that your paper looks. So in other words, if you have one of your articles and it's 2 pages long, and you're almost down to the bottom of the page, and you do your Control Enter, that's going to give you a page break there, and your next article is going to start on the next page. Well, if you add a paragraph to that previous page, it's going to push down into the next page. Your page break will automatically move that next article down to a new page. Okay, that will save you a ton of time. I see many papers where the student is just hitting that enter key, 40 or 50 times. And, it's not necessary. You got better things to do with your time than hitting that space bar or the enter key, sorry. All right. So there's more details there on how to do that. And then you're going to have a minimum of 10 pages of text where you're going to review the items that you reviewed. Okay, you're going to synthesize it. So you're going to put some of the articles together, some of the points of the articles together under a certain heading. You may have another heading for another group of articles that fit under a different heading. You should have basically at least 3 headings. And you're going to need to have at least 2 items under each heading. You're going to compare and contrast. So I am not looking for you just to rehash each article one by one. You've already done that in the templates that you're going to submit as appendices. What I want you to do is take the points that are relative to your research question from the articles and put them together under headings. Okay, so please do that. I will put into the course a sample of that so that you know how that's going to come together. Okay, if you just rehash each of the articles one by one, you're not accomplishing anything. All you're doing is just rehashing the same information. But as scholarly teachers, we need to be able to put the ideas together. Okay, which articles fit together? Which articles don't? You may have some articles that agree with your research question, and you may have others that don't really agree with it. That's okay. That's a part of research. If all we do is just look for things that agree with our research question, we're not doing proper research. We need to look at both sides of the coin. Okay, so that's what I'm looking for in that research project. Okay, so does that make sense? Okay, so if you take a look on page 16, you'll see that there's a list of items right there that should appear in that template. Okay, so all you have to do, it basically is just reproduce this, answer each of the questions, and you're there. So if you want to copy it, you can do that. But it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It has 8 items. That's what I'm going to look for in the appendices. In your actual 10 pages of text, I'm not going to look for those. I'm going to look to see how you're putting those ideas together, how you're separating them into some groups. Then in your next course in SPD 696, then you're going to add 4 more articles to that. So you're going to have a total of 12 articles. Now, if you do this right, then you'll already have 8 articles going into SPD 696. Okay, that's going to save you a lot of time because you have 12 articles required for 696. So this is going to give you a big head start. So please do these the right way so that you don't have to do them over again. Okay, So you have the template right there on page 16. Okay, so please use that. All right, and then also included in that paper, you're going to have conclusion. That's a typo. There should only be one conclusion in a paper. Okay, if you have two conclusions, that means you didn't write the paper the correct way. You need one conclusion. Okay, if you find that you have to have two conclusions, you just absolutely have to have it, then please go back in and add in the body of the paper what's missing so that you end up with only one conclusion. All right, and so go through that. Does everybody know how to do APA style for references? Do the hanging indent?
It's been a while.
Okay. All right. When you go into Word, I think I'll post a video that I did last year. You go into Word in your Word document, and where you go to set up your margins, and you set up your paragraph indentation. When you click on the indentation, the special, in the drop-down box, you have a regular indentation, ½ inch. Okay, the next line down says hanging indent. That's what you want to use. Hanging indent. I would not activate that until you're into your reference section. Okay, then use hanging indent from there to the end of the references. And you'll find that as you type in your references, that you can just type in all your words, the reference completely the way it's supposed to be. It will automatically indent the right places. So the first line will not be indented, but every line under it will be indented. Okay. If you experiment with it, you're going to find that it's going to save you a ton of time. I see many papers where students are trying to use the tab key or the space key, trying to move things over. And then as soon as you go to the next line, everything gets maladjusted. So if you use that tool, that paragraph tool, select hanging indent. I'll look for that video and post it so that you can view that. It'll have some other little tips in there that could be helpful. Because yeah, it's true. If you haven't used it for a while, it's like trying to learn how to ride a bike again. You're going to fall off a couple times. Okay, so I want to help you in any way that I can. All right, then when you're finished with the references, then go back and change your indent to normal indent. When you select the indent, select 1/2 inch, because that is APA style. I notice in some papers that individuals will use the space bar 3 times. That's not APA. If you're going to use the space bar, it's 10 spaces. Okay, that's a ½ inch. So save yourself some time. Use that indent tool. It'll automatically do it. Every time you hit enter, it'll indent that next paragraph for you. It's a big time saver. Okay, any questions so far? Okay, good.
As far as questions for you, do you prefer us to email you? Is that the best way to ask questions?
Yeah, you can. If you email me, that's good. If you, yeah, that's a good way to do it. I respond to either text or to emails. If you need to call me, you can call me, but just remember that there's a time difference. So if you try to call me at say 9 o'clock California time, I might be in bed already. Okay.
Right, fair enough.
All right. And like I promised before, I won't call anybody at 7 in the morning my time. Okay, so on page 18 of 18, it gives you a breakdown of points for that signature assignment. Okay, so nothing is left to the imagination. You know exactly what's being expected. I'm going to give you a sample paper, so it'll show you exactly how the paper should be set up. And so hopefully it'll be a piece of cake. You'll have plenty of examples to go by. Okay. And then if you get me for 696, then well, you'll be halfway there. Well, more than halfway. You'll have a really good start. Actually, have a good start for any teacher that you have for 696. Okay. All right. Are there any questions for me?
So as far as our meetings, we won't have them on every Tuesday. It's just when you decide to schedule them or you feel like we need them.
Yeah, if enough of you have a challenge with a certain issue, then I'll call a meeting so that we can discuss it together. So don't be afraid to let me know if you're having issues. Okay, I'm here to help you.
All right, cool.
And
Thank you.
I can't help you if you don't let me know what
For
your
sure.
needs are.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, there's an expression that says, okay, what is a stupid question? Well, it's the question that didn't get asked in the first place. That's a stupid question. So all other questions are good. Okay. So I want you to enjoy the course. I want you to get good benefit out of it. And I want you to be scholarly practitioners. Okay. And that's going to be one of the lessons that you're going to learn in this course. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So if you don't have anything more, I'm going to let you go. The evening is still young for you guys. It's going to be 11 o'clock here, my time, in a few minutes. So I guess if there's nothing else, then I'm going to say goodnight to everybody. I'm going to process the video. Hopefully it took this time. The last two times I've tried to record, it hasn't recorded. So,
I have one last question.
yes.
So for future lectures, how far in advance will you notify us that we're having one so we can prepare for that?
Try for at least 2 weeks.
Okay.
Okay. If for some reason, if we have something that's really pressing, I might cut it down to 1 week.
Okay.
It just, and then if something comes up and you can't make it, then watch the video.
All right.
Okay.
Sounds great.
So try to make it easy for you guys. I know that you have a lot on your plate. And I remember when I was taking my courses, I was taking 2 courses a month, and I was teaching in a school and had a second job teaching English to migrant workers. So I was busy about 16 hours a day. So I go home and just plop down on the bed and sleep. So I know what you guys are going through. So that's why I try to make it easy for you guys.
Okay.
Okay.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, not a problem. Okay. So if everybody's finished for tonight, then I'll say good night. And please enjoy the course. Okay.
Thank you. And you have a good evening.
All right. You too. Good night.
Thank you for
everybody.
everything. Good night, everyone.
Oh, you're welcome. You're
Have
welcome.
a good night.
All right. You too.
You, good night.
All right. Good night.
You're done.